Hello. And welcome to the Escape Artist podcast with Tessa Marie. Get comfortable. Take your shoes off. And prepare to talk all things digital. And now for your intrepid host, and my friend, Tessa Marie. Take it away, Tessa.
Thank you very much, Graham. And hello. My name is Tessa, and this is the Escape Artist podcast. The podcast that's all about, well, everything that you want to escape from, really. It's a terrible introduction, and I apologize for that. But seriously, this is a podcast about YouTube. It's a podcast about Vine. It's a podcast about everything that's going on in social media that I enjoy. And the things that I enjoy are usually the things that other people enjoy. So, welcome. You've been introduced, you've been given an introduction by my bot Graham, my buddy Graham. I sit here in San Antonio, Texas, talking to you into a microphone on a laptop. That is the epitome of my life, is talking to myself while on the laptop. And therefore, I wanted to share that joy with you, of course. Today is a introduction podcast. Today is a little teaser of what you're going to be getting with the podcast. I wanted to go ahead and film a little thing just talking to you about myself, what I do, why I do it, and what you can expect from the Escape Artist podcast. I guess the first thing I should do is learn how to say the Escape Artist podcast. I seem to be having a problem speaking. I seem to be having a problem saying the Escape Artist podcast. I came up with the name. It shouldn't be a problem. Alas, though, the Escape Artist podcast. I keep saying it, hoping that it'll get better. You know how when you are trying to learn somebody's name and they say, oh, just say it over and over again. Well, that's what I'm doing with this podcast. The Escape Artist podcast. The Escape Artist podcast. The Escape Artist podcast. See, it's already getting better. Already. And ladies and gentlemen, that is just a little taste of the drivel that you will be hearing from me on this podcast, are things like saying the name of your podcast over and over, learning how to speak into a microphone. These are the essentials, my friends, of what this is all about. So, a little bit about myself. My name is Tessa. I have a full-time job working at a hospital here. But 95% of my time is spent on the internet. I love the internet. I am on the internet all the time. And for me, being on the internet is definitely a form of escapism. I feel, and I think that you'll agree, that there's a lot of nastiness that's going on in this world. And after a while, you get very, very tired of the news. You get tired of the terrible things of the news. You get tired of the killings. You get tired of the terrorism. And you need a way to escape. And my form of escape is getting on the internet. Now, for the most part, my escape is primarily YouTube. I have a lot of subscriptions on YouTube. I follow all kinds of people on YouTube, which I'll talk about later. And it is the thing that brings me the most solace. I also like to get on Vine. I don't subscribe to a lot of people on Vine, but when I do get on Vine, it's just those few seconds that kind of take me away from the terrible things that are going on. Particularly this month has been pretty rough for me. You know, I've had a surgery and I've been sick and it's been rough. And I'm telling you, being in the hospital when I was at my worst, all I had to do was open up my YouTube app. And that just happened to be the day of YouTube Rewind. For anybody who doesn't know, YouTube Rewind is a yearly event on YouTube which basically encapsulates everything that has happened, the big stuff that has happened in the world of YouTube. And YouTube puts together this big production of YouTubers, the viral videos that have happened in the year, and they make a big compilation, and it's wonderful. It's really, really well done and really well produced, and I watch it every year. So this year, when I was watching it, I was in the hospital, and I was hurting. I was in quite a lot of pain, and I was sitting in the hospital waiting room, and I said, I just need to take my mind off everything that's going on with me. So I went to YouTube and watched YouTube Rewind and loved it. And I had 7-8 minutes of joy in what was a terrible, terrible day. The joy of seeing Smosh, the joy of seeing Tyler Oakley and Dan and Phil and Markiplier and MatPat and everybody, on this silly video. It was exactly what I needed. So, I love YouTube, and I know that there are people out there who have the exact same experience as me, where they watch YouTube to escape the terrible things that may be going on in their world or the things that are going on in the world in general. So that's why I love YouTube. That's why I am a subscriber. Now, that's great. A lot of people are subscribers, but why is it that I choose to make YouTube videos? By the way, I do make YouTube videos. I probably should have said that at the beginning. But my bot Graham, I think, mentioned it, or if he didn't, he will mention it later. I do make YouTube videos. My YouTube video series is called Tessas Guideto, and it's basically just like a silly advice column that I decided to do. Now, I've had a lot of iterations of doing YouTube. I did try to do a vlogging thing. I thought about doing like a cooking thing, and I couldn't quite come up with an idea, and I just decided, I give everybody useless advice. Why don't I give the internet useless advice? And so I decided to do Tessa's Guide to. Now, as I was setting up all of my social media things, I'm on Tumblr, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I have a website, I have this podcast now. As I was setting those things up, excuse me, I'm so sorry, I seem to have gotten a tweet. I promise I'll be a little bit more professional when I put out the other podcast. But when I was doing all these things, I was thinking about, why is it that we put ourselves on the internet? Why is it that YouTubers decide to put themselves out there? It's a very vulnerable situation to be in. To say, this is my life and I'm going to broadcast my life. Even if you're not doing a vlog per se, even if you're not taking a camera and following yourself around in day-to-day life, you're still being exposed. You're still putting yourself in front of people and you're posting it and you're saying, judge me. You're saying, look at my stuff, judge me, like it, subscribe, tell me what you think. So I was doing that, and I was making these videos. And I was thinking, why? Why am I putting myself out there? And I decided that the reason for that was because I needed the attention. Now, I'm not saying that in a negative way. I'm not saying I'm an attention hog. I'm not saying that I fish for compliments. What I'm saying is I am a single woman who's still trying to make friends. And doing YouTube, like I've said 100 times already today, is an escapism. It's a part of the escapism. And making the videos is my hobby. It's my hobby. It's when people say, why do you do YouTube videos? I've started to say, well, why do people knit? Why do people make quilts? Why do people build, those little toy cars? Why do people do it? It's a hobby. It's a hobby I enjoy. I talk a lot already. I talk way too much. And so it only makes sense for me to do that in a public medium. So that's why I do YouTube. I enjoy it. I'm not looking for YouTube fame. I'm trying to look for the me out there. Look for the person that wants to watch YouTube, who is maybe having a hard day and needs to escape, and I would like to be that person for some people. So that's why I do YouTube. Plain and simple. Now, as far as the people that I watch on YouTube, I mean, I have started to enjoy the smaller YouTubers quite a bit, which is also, we'll get into very soon. But as far as the bigger ones, I watch a lot of the stuff that other people watch. Like I said, I watch a lot of Smosh. I watch Tyler Oakley. I watch Dan and Phil. I watch Markiplier. I watch Matthias. I watch Jack's films. I watch Memory Heart. I watch all kinds of people. Mostly the comedy stuff. I also watch BuzzFeed. I like their stuff as well. But, on Vine, there are so many Viners that I watch. Instagram, there's not a lot of Instagrammers. There is a subset of this culture of people who are Instagram famous. And more power to them. I just haven't found the right Instagrammers to follow. But there are some out there. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to Comedy Bang Bang. I listen to How Did This Get Made? I listen to the Reduced Shakespeare podcast. I listen to, some NPR things. I mean, I listen to a lot of podcasts as well. Again, why do I do that? Why do I waste my time on these things? I find that if you allow yourself to think real hard, just for a second, on the things that are going on outside of your world, it can be depressing. And for me, I'm not interested in being more depressed than I already am. So to, turn on the TV and watch something, or to get on the internet and watch something, it takes me out of that, and it's wonderful. So let's get to the nitty gritty. Why am I doing this podcast? Why? Of all the things in the world, why am I doing this podcast? If you follow me at tessasguideto on Twitter, which you should, you will see that I follow a lot of smaller YouTubers. Why do I do that? I find that these young kids, it's a lot of teenagers, and it's a lot of young people who are putting their lives out there on YouTube. And it intrigues me, the things that people post. Not necessarily the react videos, not necessarily the gaming videos, although there are some gamers out there that I follow also. It's people who are creative, and they're doing skits. They're, coming up with interesting ideas and challenges, and they're talking about their lives. Not necessarily vlogging, not necessarily walking around with a camera on the street saying, I'm going out to eat. No, I'm not necessarily talking about that. I'm talking about people who are saying, man, today was a rough day, and this is what I want to talk about. Or, even the silly ones of, oh my gosh, let me tell you this story of what happened to me. I like to follow those people. So the more I subscribe to these smaller YouTubers, these new tubers, as they're affectionately called, I begin to think about their story. I have my story. But what makes these other people put their lives on YouTube? And that's what this podcast is really all about. My plan is to interview different YouTubers, Viners, podcasters, Instagrammers, people who put themselves out there on this internet medium, and talk to them about why they do it. Why they do it, what they're working on, what their life is like, and give them some exposure. Now, it's cross promotion. We're all helping each other with these things. I talk about them, they talk about me. But we know the big podcasters, we know the big YouTubers. But who are these people? Who are these kids? Who are these young people who are trying to make a name for themselves? Some people take it very seriously, like this is what they want to do for their career, and that's awesome. Some of them do it like me, as a hobby. And there are YouTubers out there, big ones, who started it off as a hobby and end up becoming bigger. And that's awesome. We all would love to make money off of YouTube, but that's not what it's all about. It's not about trying to become YouTube famous. And so I want to talk to you. I want to talk to the YouTubers out there that are really trying to do something different. I want to talk to you about what you're doing, why you did it, how you got into it, who is the YouTuber that inspired you. If that is you, please, I'm asking you to please contact me. Contact me on Twitter at tessasguideto. Contact me on Facebook. I have a Facebook page. Type in tessasguideto and like the page. Go to my website, tessasguideto.squarespace.com. All of those things are ways to reach you. To reach me. And I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you on this podcast. I want you to tell people, hey, I'm talking about me being a YouTuber, and direct them this way. That's what this is about. In addition to talking to different people, I'm also going to be talking about the things that I'm watching right now. The things that interest me, the things that, the videos that I'm loving, the people that I'm loving. For instance, just as a quick tangent, I will tell you right now that I have been in love with Dan and Phil for a little bit, for a couple of years. I'm pretty new to the Dan and Phil game. But as far as the Dan and Phil brand goes, those boys are so magnificent. It doesn't hurt that they're British. I will be the first person to tell you that I'm an Anglophile. I love everything British. I love the Brits. I love the UK. And Dan and Phil are these two boys. I say boys. Two men who have put their lives on YouTube and have been on YouTube for like 7 or 8 years. They wrote a book. The Amazing Book Is Not on Fire, and I read that book, and I loved it. Just talking about everything about them. And they are the epitome to me of these kids. When they started, they were kids just doing something. I want to just do this YouTube thing. And they kept at it, and they were themselves, and they didn't know each other, and then they met each other, and then they kept going on YouTube, and now they're on the radio. They have written this book. They've done tours. I mean, their story is pretty amazing, and I love Dan and Phil. They have an annual video called Phil is Not on Fire, because Dan Howell is Dan is Not on Fire. Phil Lester is the Amazing Phil. I'm sorry, not the Amazing Phil. He's just Amazing Phil. And together, every year, they do Phil's Not on Fire. So they just combine their names, and they answer silly questions from people who write them, and they do silly stuff. And I love it. It's silly. It's super silly, and I love super silly. So it's right up my alley. They're always doing... Dan has talked about very serious things about people who troll the internet. Why is the internet so mean? They've talked about some serious stuff. They mostly do silly stuff, but they'll talk about some serious stuff every once in a while. And I enjoy it terribly. So that's just like a sneak peek of some of the stuff that I watch. my intention is to maybe talk about 1 or 2 or 3 videos that I've watched that week, discuss it with you, invite you to watch them, and then talk about what's going on in pop culture in general. Sorry. This is the thing about this podcasting thing, is learning how to speak. I can't quite master it. Let's try that again. What's going on in pop culture, I can't speak. Culture, pop culture in general. I love pop culture. Many of my friends will tell you that I am just like a walking IMDb. I can scream. Somebody will say, "Hey, who's that one guy in that one thing?" And I'm like, "It's Javier Bardem. It's Javier Bardem." And they're like, "Really?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Of course, granted, it is Javier Bardem. That is the right answer. I don't just scream Javier Bardem. Usually, he has to be in it. See the kind of tangents that I can go into with these. This is the kind of things that you want to hear. People are my tangents. That's what this podcast is about. It's my tangents. And then when I interview you, we will also go on those tangents together, and I won't seem as crazy. But yes, we'll talk about pop culture. We'll talk about what's going on in the news media, pop culture wise. Things that are trending. That's what this podcast is about. It's about the internets. Everything that's going on with the internets. The things that I like in the internets, and things that I encourage you to look up on the internets. So, that is that. That is what this podcast is about. I wanted to do this introduction podcast to let you know what you're getting into. And it's going to be on SoundCloud. Once I edit this, it should be on SoundCloud. You should be listening to it through SoundCloud. Please subscribe, and I will also be linking it onto my Twitter, and it's on my Facebook and on the website. And I hope that you guys enjoy it. Again, if you have any questions, please, for my YouTube series, Tessa's Guide to, I'm always looking for questions from people. If you would like some useless advice, please send me your questions. Send me a direct message on there. Send me a message on Facebook. Put it in the form of a question. Dear Tessa, and then ask your question sincerely, whatever your name is, and I will answer it on a YouTube video. And if you're a YouTuber, make sure to let me know that, and I will put a link in my YouTube video to your series as well. So again, we're all helping each other out. And that's it. That is the Escape Artist Podcast. Look at that. I can even, at the end of this podcast, I can even say it. I can say the Escape Artist Podcast now because I've gotten used to it. I've gotten used to it, ladies and gentlemen. So I hope you enjoy this. I look forward to hearing from you guys. And again, make sure to subscribe. Make sure to look up all my stuff. Until then, my name is Tessa. And I will see you guys super, super, super soon. Goodbye. Take it away, Graham.
This has been the Escape Artist Podcast with Tessa Marie. Intro music by Silent Partner. Pyro flow by Kevin MacLeod is licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0. Visit creativecommons.org/licenses/by/3.0 for more information. To keep up with Tessa Marie and her antics, visit www.tessasguideto.squarespace.com. Don't forget to subscribe to her not-so-popular YouTube series, Tessa's Guide To, as well. Until next time, this is Graham saying, take care, and be safe out there.